For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Thabi Madiba. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss if Mugabe's departure package be a model for Zuma. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
After 37 years in power, Robert Mugabe stepped down as Zimbabwean president following pressure from the army and the citizens after the military took charge of the country. Now, why do you suggest that Mugabe's removal signifies that conditions of oppression are not immutable?
First of all, I'm not sure how much pressure the citizens brought to bear on the departure of Mugabe. What is important is to note that this was a palace coup, that the military took control of the country, and between the military and a small section of ZANU-PF, especially the Mugabe family, they negotiated the departure of Mugabe from office. So I don't think the citizen, this is not an example of civic or popular power. The people celebrate it, but they didn't bring the pressure that was decisive in removing him. And that's very important in terms of whether it is the opening for future democracy. Because if the people of Zimbabwe had been more involved in his departure, you wouldn't necessarily have had replacement of someone who's Mugabe Mark II in the case of Emerson Mnangagwa. I didn't quite get the part of the question about things, oppression is not immutable. What?
Yeah, the conditions of oppression are not immutable.
Why do I say they're not immutable?
Yeah, why do you suggest that they are not immutable?
No, I don't suggest they're not immutable. I think that conditions of oppression can be addressed, and I believe that they can be addressed better in a process where the public of Zimbabwe is more involved than just the military, who are themselves involved in the oppression, and ZANU-PF, which is involved in the oppression. So I do think that the conditions of oppression are mutable. They can be changed, they can be removed, but you've got to build organizations which represent sectors other than top hierarchies of the military and ZANU-PF.
You read that Zuma was offered a package deal some months back. So, however, you have concerns that this is legal and democratic.
Yeah, I don't say that he was offered a package deal. It is reported in the Daily Maverick by Richard Poplak that he has sources which say that billions have been offered to Zuma to leave office. My concerns about this is, first of all, if there's billions around, why must billions go to someone who's already got billions by methods that are in many cases illegal? Secondly, it is possibly going along with an amnesty and immunity from prosecution, and I believe that it's illegal to let someone leave office to and undermine the rule of law. Now, why I'm so concerned about this is our concern mustn't just be to get rid of Zuma. You see, getting rid of Zuma, I've said repeatedly on this program, is important, but we must know what it is that we want to get rid of to ensure that we don't have a Zuma Mark II. And the problem that I have with the candidates for the presidency of the ANC is that there's not a vision. They've all been involved in Zumism, and they all say that they don't want to say directly that they're different from Zuma, but they say they will clamp down on corruption, all of this sort of thing, and they'll clamp down on state capture. Now, Zuma himself has also said there will be zero tolerance for corruption. So what does it mean? What are these candidates offering? What ideas do they have? We know that they are personalities. So my problem with they may want a package as I said in my article, because for Zuma, they may agree with that, because if someone is elected as ANC president who is not favoured by Zuma, and they want to get rid of Zuma as state president, because you can't do much as ANC president. You can only change a lot of things if you are state president. Now, Zuma is not the sort of guy who will bow to pressure, assuming that Cyril Ramaphosa or someone like that becomes ANC president and the NEC tries to recall Zuma. They may not be able to get that bigger majority, because whoever wins in December may not have a big majority. Zuma is likely to ignore that request. He's not I've said this before here, he's not a gentleman. Like, he doesn't play, you know, in boxing they've got the Queensberry rules of boxing. Now, Zuma doesn't play by the Queensberry rules of boxing. He hits below the belt, he may kick you, he'll do all sorts of things. So if they call on him to recall him as the ANC leadership, he may just say, forget it, you know.
You also wrote that it is important that we examine the removal of Mugabe in relation to rebuilding democracy in South Africa. Can you expand on that?
Well, you know, the lesson relates to the current fixation with what people call the race. In South Africa, there's a fixation with personalities, that this one is in the lead, this one's got so many branches, so forth. And there's no political discussion. If you listen to commentary, whether it's on ENCA, 702, in even top newspapers, it's all about personalities. Now, what has happened is that Mugabe has gone, and it's very good that Mugabe has gone, but the man who has taken his place was very, very instrumental in keeping ZANU-PF in power, even when they lost elections to MDC, very instrumental in the attacks on Matabeleland in the 1980s, which was aimed at crushing ZAPU. So it's very important that we draw lessons, and the lesson that I've drawn is that we do not want change at the top only. You need to find ways of citizens or the people being involved in their own democracy, not just being observers. Otherwise, we're going to get, like in Zimbabwe, changes at the top only. And the change at the top in Zimbabwe is, any change at the top is insufficient. It only affects ZANU-PF, but the person who's come in has got a reputation for attacks on human rights and for being the right-hand person of Mugabe.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about if Mugabe's departure package can be a model for Zuma.